So that's going to kind of be our topic next week. It's going to be about, Gamergate and how it kind of affected, the gamer world as a whole. So everyone was just kind of really affected. That just kind of made me think of that. But to any of you who feel that you've been misrepresented of somebody who claims, says that they are involuntarily celibate, if you feel, what you were part of has been just completely watered down to nothing of what it means, and you want to reclaim what that, what inceldom means to you, I'm your voice. I'm your voice, and I'm here for you. I see you. So that will be kind of next week. Sorry.
So are you going to talk about how incels aren't bad? Are you going to try to put a more positive light on incels?
We're going to go deep into the beginning.
The
beginning of the inceldom, kind of subreddits that popped up, because they weren't always like necessarily super toxic. It originally was just kind of a place for lonely people, and it wasn't just men, it was men, women, all sorts of people.
And Holly actually did a really great comparison of that to the Minecraft stands. How, the Minecraft fandom, it's not like it started out toxic. Like, of course, it's a place for, people to come together and have like shared interests and stuff. But sometimes it can just snowball into a very negative thing, and you'll see it happen like in all sorts of different communities. I think, also the K-pop or the BTS community, right, is like another example of that. The incel community, like I said, the Minecraft Twitter community. There's been multiple examples of it, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Like, luckily a lot of the communities I'm a part of, we don't have those same issues. The Housewives typically, like the Housewives fans, they typically do, kind of get along. We like to drink our wine and have a nice chat. So.
We love chatting.
Somebody said a bi woman actually started the incel community, and sexist men took it over. Oh, is that one of the things you're going to talk about?
It's like, honestly, I feel like would be like really shocking to a lot of people, because it was never meant to be what it was, like what it turned into. Like that's never what it was. It was really just a place for people.
That's next week. And I'm excited to do some research on it, because honestly, I feel like I know an embarrassingly small amount about Gamergate. And I'm somebody who probably should know a bit more about it. Well, it's actually kind of embarrassing how little I know about it. So I'm excited to research it.
It played a big role in like the World of Warcraft community.
Right. Yeah. Like I remember hearing about it all the time, but I was just never like quite understood what it was, because it just seems like it's like a very conflated thing. I don't know. Like, because it was kind of like a lot of things happened at once. Right.
I mean,
we'll have to talk about that next week, but I'm really excited to talk about that topic with you guys next week.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to like shout that out.
Yeah, that's
people were here.
Sneak preview. But yeah, I'm ready to get to the topic at hand. Welcome everybody to this week's episode of For Recreational Use, a podcast where we just talk about different things, Today we're going to be talking about Dan Schneider. Next week we're going to be talking about Gamergate. Last week we talked about, what did we talk about last week? And it was the one that I did. I can't remember. Oh, the Minecraft.
Okay, so you got this.
The toxic Minecraft stands. But yeah, we are For Recreational Use, and we do a live stream every Wednesday, and episodes will be up on YouTube and wherever else you find podcasts. I am Kaceytron. You can find me at twitch.tv/Kaceytron.
And I'm Holly Cannabis. You can find me at Holly Cannabis, Twitch TV.
And I'm Shanye West 69, and you can follow me at Shanye West 69, twitch.tv.
So, trigger warning. Oh, for recreational use.
Only.
Trigger warning. The topic we will be discussing on this week's episode of Recreational Use has stories of physical and sexual assault. This presentation should be seen and heard by adults 18 and up. So take it away, Sean.
Nickelodeon has played a vital part in the lives of many. Nick's programming has provided many of us with cherished memories of our childhood. Nick provides parents with a safe haven for their children, and those kiddos are given hours of free entertainment. However, for the children behind the scenes, it was a very different experience. Nickelodeon, the Schneider Cut. If you don't recognize his name, you'll recognize the shows he's created. You've heard of iCarly, Drake and Josh, Victorious, and Zoe 101. These are all shows we grew up watching. Some of them defined our childhood. You may not remember, but his name pops up near the end of the theme song of those shows that I just mentioned above. The man who created these shows is Dan Schneider. You'd think Schneider would be the good person who's always enjoying creating and making kids and even teens happy. Unfortunately, this isn't the case, nor is it the whole story. Today, we'll be delving into the harsh reality of what went on behind the scenes of some of our favorite TV shows, and how Dan Schneider fooled all of us.
So, when did you guys first start hearing rumors about Dan?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you a specific time period, but I do remember certain things that did make me uncomfortable as a child watching on the Nickelodeon show that he was actually in, which I know we'll go into like detail about later, but honestly I would say like maybe within like the last 3-4 years, is this something that's like caught my attention more? What about you guys?
See, I remember I started hearing about it in 2011. I would say, just kind of like, because I was very into like pop culture and entertainment.
Right.
And then I kind of started hearing like, things through just reading about, Miranda Cosgrove and, her ending iCarly. And it was just like, even that had some sort of connotation on why she wanted to end the show.
Honestly, I didn't really watch a lot of those shows on Nickelodeon. Like, I watched all that, and I watched the Amanda Show, of course, but like Zoe 101 and, Victorious, I never really got into, and I never really watched. And I had heard like you and Sean, I feel like, talking about it a little bit on and off for maybe like the past 3 years. Like I've just heard you guys mention it maybe a few times. So like if somebody brought up the situation, I would be like, oh yeah, I've heard about that, but I wouldn't have known a lot.
Right.
How many of you in the chat have heard about this?
I feel like chat knows. Maybe they don't. I mean, it's just an echo chamber.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like, honestly, I had a lot of people in my stream who seemed to know a bit about it, and we're excited for the topic, to be honest. So,
well, that's what I like to hear.
No, we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's kind of dive in. Holly, if you could read this next section for us here.
Sure.
Thank you.
So this is whenever Dan was let go after the kind of speculation on Nickelodeon. So on March 26, 2018, Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon unexpectedly parted ways. They put out the following statement. Following many conversations together about next directions and future opportunities, Nickelodeon and our longtime creative partner, Dan Schneider, Schneider's Bakery, have agreed not to extend the current deal. Since several of Schneider's Bakery projects are wrapping up, both sides agreed that it is a natural time for Nickelodeon and Schneider's Bakery to pursue other opportunities and projects. Dan and his Schneider's Bakery team have created a string of lasting, groundbreaking hits over the years, including iCarly, Drake and Josh, Victorious, Keenan and Kel, and the #1 hit show on Nickelodeon, Henry Danger. We thank Dan and Schneider's Bakery producers, executive, and social media team for their immeasurable contributions to Nickelodeon, and we wish them the best in the future endeavors. And Dan and Schneider's Bakery are proud of the network that they did together. Proud of the work that they did together with Nickelodeon, and will always remain big fans of the network.
So they really make it seem like it was, what's the word?
Amicable.
Amicable. They really make it seem like it's amicable, which seems like it's probably something that Dan agreed to, right? But you just have to think it was because of all of the speculation. And I think them just looking at it, they knew that it was going to come up and be an even bigger issue soon, and they needed to act on it. So they cut him because of that. And they were just like, we won't mention it, but everybody will know that's why.
Well, I think that what I noticed with kind of their statement, and this is what goes for like a rule of thumb, I guess, from like childhood learning, is the more you talk, the more you're lying. Like whenever you're saying something, and like you notice how long this statement is from Nickelodeon, and it's like they're just fluffing him up as much as they can, but then they're also kind of trying to take away any wrongdoing that he may have done by thanking the production teams behind the scenes and thanking the social media people, because obviously he can't run his own social media, surely. But I think it's very obvious that they fluffed that statement as much as they could.
Yeah, and I will also add from like what I've like after, looking into this topic, from what I've learned about Dan, I think that he was honestly very pissed and he did not take it well at all. I almost feel like maybe it kind of sent him a bit over the deep end, just looking at how he's doing now. But we'll get into that more later.
Yeah. I mean, I feel it was amicable, like almost on both ends, because I feel like Schneider's a smart enough guy to know what's coming, and that's how these people get away, right? So I feel like while it may have been hard for him, while he may have been angry about it, I think he was probably really ready to cut the ties too, right? Like he knew, if not, something would be coming his way, in my opinion.
I completely
No,
disagree.
you make
I
a
think
point.
He was very angry. And
really?
I think he was definitely I think he would have continued to work for Nickelodeon had he not been fired. And I just find it interesting that they would fire someone who has a #1 show on the air. Typically you'd want to keep them
right,
to continue making money off that show, because it kept running after he left. It wasn't like it ended.
Right.
Yeah, so I
no,
mean,
that's a good point. The fact that he had the #1 show then and they let him go then, yeah, like that makes it seem pretty apparent. And like I said, I feel like they knew that it would make it seem pretty apparent, and that's why they did it. They were like, oh, we're saying something without saying something. But I do think that I get the idea that Dan is like a raging narcissist. I just get that vibe from him, and I feel like he feels like such a victim, and like he's been done wrong, and I feel like he feels very wronged, and he's very upset about it to a certain degree, but it's hard to say. That's just my guess.
Yeah, and I'll definitely have more to follow up on that, like why I kind of believe that the Nickelodeon breaking their ties with Dan Schneider was actually something that, because, later on we're going to kind of discuss that it was something years in the making. However, I suspect that like the last few months kind of like was a pressure cooker of like get this deal signed and get Dan Schneider removed from Nickelodeon. And that'll kind of bring us to our next kind of foray into our next discussion here. So neither Nickelodeon nor Schneider gave a reason for their split. There are reports that the decision was years in the making due to multiple complaints of abusive behavior by members of Schneider's staff and well-documented temper issues. Tensions started rising when Schneider was told that Henry Danger and Austin Alley, as well as a new Nick series, Cousins for Life, would be moving into the Burbank studio, owned by Nickelodeon, but exclusively used for Dan Schneider Productions for the past several years. Sources say that Schneider objected to the prospect of having to share the office space with the new non-bakery show and went absolutely ballistic. During a meeting he had with Nickelodeon executives, they extended the to him. Excuse me, let me restart that. During a meeting he had with Nickelodeon executives, they indicated to him Game Shakers was getting canceled. Schneider's reaction was due to the fact that Game Shakers was about to wrap production on its third season the following day with a cliffhanger season finale, which would leave fans without closure. This was just before it was announced that Dan Schneider would be parting ways with Nickelodeon, leaving with a $7 million severance package.
I think that the 7 million definitely probably made it easier for Dan Schneider to part ways, and I think that was a very generous severance package for a reason, right? Like, I feel like that's a lot of money. I don't know how much. Do you know how much he's worth?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
He's worth over 40 million. He's said to be the richest children's children's TV show producer.
Oh, okay. That's like, that puts it in perspective. So it's almost like 7 probably to him wasn't a lot, and he felt like he got raw. I bet like to him it felt like it wasn't a lot.
That's probably a year's worth of. That's honestly like a year or two probably of a salary, because I would imagine that the 7 million was like his deal probably extended like 2 or 3 years, and they were like, all right, so if you worked for us for this long, that's how much you'd be paid.
Mm-hmm.
Or like we may pay for your shows. But yeah, I mean, it definitely, why would you pay someone $7 million to walk away if they are deciding to leave on their own accord?
Right. Yeah, it's all very, like, I think it's all very, see-through, I guess.
Yeah, very transparent.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was very see-through, and I feel like, they did it with purpose. Whenever Nickelodeon let him go, they were like, yeah, we need to clear our names of this now. We're not going down with him, because I feel like it would just make him look real. It would make Nickelodeon look really bad. Like, it already does make them look bad, just to the extent that it is already. And if they didn't cut him as soon as they did, which was in 2018, like, imagine if you were still there, it would look even worse. I mean, they probably should have cut him sooner. It's like they definitely probably knew to a certain degree what was going on, but anyway.
Yeah. So there was actually a lot of strange behavior, and it was even seen from the public eye. To think that Nickelodeon didn't have the slightest idea would just be absolutely like, the biggest lie. Because a lot of the allegations based around Schneider's seemingly unshakable obsession, or like basically like the obsession that he was kind of being accused of, was about actresses' feet. There were young actresses, and upon rewatching some shows like iCarly, it's really uncomfortable with how many feet-related incidents that are occurring. From toe puppets to having characters put their feet in their mouth. The foot talk didn't stop on screen either. It also made its way to Twitter. And then Casey, are you able to show that tweet?
Yeah. Hold on, let me pull this up.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the receipts, you guys. Let me... Okay. Yeah, so this is from Dan Schneider's official Twitter. Wait, did my cam freeze?
Yeah, I don't see your camera.
It's fine. It's just going to do this during this part, but it's fine. Anyway.
Okay.
So, this is from Dan Schneider's official Twitter account. He says... Pick Carly tickles Sam's very unusual toes. If you have a moment, will you please name Sam's toes for us? And it's like actually like a picture of her feet. And then this next tweet, Schneider's obsession with feet didn't stop with Hollywood actresses, unfortunately. In 2013, the official Twitter for Salmon Cat, a crossover spinoff of iCarly and Victorious produced by Schneider, asked the show's preteen audience to send in pictures of their feet. And this is whenever, like, I think it really started getting noticed, like with Dan's behavior. But yeah, it says, Salmon Cat tomorrow, right on the bottom of your foot, take a pic and use Salmon Cat Saturday. We'll retweet and follow until our fingers get sore. And then if you look in the thread, it actually consists of a lot of people calling Dan out for being creepy. This is actually the most liked tweet from the thread. Yeah, a little strange. But yeah, I'm going to stop sharing now. Well, actually, there's another, I think we had like a few videos.
Yeah, it'll go on a little further though. So I mean, we can wait to get to those.
Yeah, okay. Also, Zoe 101 actress Alexa Nicholas has said that in her opinion, Dan Schneider isn't a good guy and even told her fans not to watch his shows. The scary part is we don't know what else went on and hasn't come out yet. So far, no major statements from stars have been made regarding Schneider's behavior. Alexa is one of the few to speak out. So this is Alexa's official, I think her Instagram, yeah. And this is just her talking a little bit about being on the show. It says, the one time I was taught by Network Studio to be boy crazy at 12 years old. Ladies, don't be boy crazy. Instead, be you crazy and build your own empire. Kids networks need to stop sexualizing children. It's creepy.
Just one moment. Oh dear.
So this is the part where we were just going to talk about like some of the red flags. Yeah, like the tweets are really fucking weird.
1 second.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to fix my cam. Put your hands up so the editor knows to cut. Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
That's fine, Shug. All right, so you know, with Alexa Nichols, she was actually fired from Zoe 101. So a lot of the rumors behind her departure of the show actually stem from her diva-like behavior, and actually not from Dan Schneider's kind of warpath that he was alleged to go on behind the scenes. However, do you guys think that's true, or do you think that that's kind of them trying to spin the narrative?
I honestly feel like it's them kind of trying to spin the narrative. It's kind of like what shows like that are really good at. And, you know, you'll hear happen a lot, you know, like people who go on like reality shows, and I know it's a bit different, but people who go on reality shows and they're like, oh yeah, they just painted me to be a completely different person than what I was. I feel like people in that industry are just used to doing that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I'm sure she, you know, because actors, you know, producers and writers, they kind of treat actors like they're clay, but you know, they're actual people and not puppets. And you know, so it's hard to say if, you know, they were treating her poorly or if they were just having her do her job.
You're muted, Holly. They can always find new child stars if any of them act like divas. Oh, yeah, no. And that's honestly, like, the more you look into the way Hollywood treats child stars, it's almost like they're treated the worst because, yeah, to Hollywood, they're just, like, disposable. You know, oh, we'll find another child actor. There's so many of them. you know, there's like so many kids lining up in Hollywood to like try out, and they have like their pageant mom with them, you know, that's ready to make them the next star, that thinks their kid is so talented. You know, yeah, it's true. Like, it's like, oh, well, we'll just move on to the next one. If they cause us any issues, we'll just move on to the next one.
We'll just throw them out. We'll blacklist them in Hollywood.
No,
Can you guys hear
exactly.
me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Have you guys been able to hear me for a second?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. Right. So, and like what I was going to say is, you know, and it's also like their children. So it's kind of like a weird statement to put out about like a child. You know, it's like they're preteen kids. So it's like to put out that statement about like a kid, like a 14-year-old, just seems like really weird. Like they refuse to take any responsibility. Like, oh, that 14-year-old was acting bratty. Like that's, I'm pretty sure Nickelodeon is used to dealing with the level of that.
Yeah, yeah, true. The next victim that we want to talk about has been fairly vocal in a sense. It's Jeanette McCurdy. And what show was she on, Sean?
Yeah, so Jeanette McCurdy was on iCarly and Sam and Cat. She actually was Miranda Cosgrove, who played Carly's best friend, and then she ended up going on to a spinoff with Ariana Grande called Sam and Cat. So Schneider had always been notorious for being off-putting, but some sources actually say that he pinned Jeanette McCurdy down when she was just 14 years old. Schneider was in his late 40s at the time. In the realm of dark Hollywood controversies, a prevalent issue is mental health, especially regarding eating disorders. And in March of 2019, McCurdy opened up about her lifelong struggles with anorexia and bulimia. Her mother also shared similar struggles, essentially helped her keep up with this behavior. And the entertainment industry only exacerbated her eating disorder more. When McCurdy was 15 years old and iCarly rose to fame, the stress led her to fixate even more on food and her physical image. McCurdy repeatedly found herself in a toxic and obsessive cycle of self-loathing. Often, stylists, agents, and producers would applaud her weight loss, unaware of how it was hurting her. While playing Sam on editor. While playing Sam on iCarly, McCurdy also became disillusioned with the role, especially after becoming aware of the fact that she was a role model for kids. Young viewers were looking up to her to be the character that they spent the most time aggressively eating and unhealthy foods and eating fried chicken. You know, to see that character doing that was, you know, she was afraid that that was going to have kids almost, I don't know, in her mind maybe gain weight or, you know, kind of go in a negative way. So I think that that was kind of also something that was hurting her mentally as well.
Holly, will you? Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, and after her time on these shows and working with Dan Schneider, you know, Jeanette McCurdy is one of the other people who's spoken out against Dan Schneider. But the way that the people who are speaking out against him is almost like they have a non-disclosure agreement. And we have a video that we're gonna play. That
Holly,
will
can you play it?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
I'm like, my camera will freeze.
But yeah, it's there is this fairly known Vine where McCurdy calls out Dan publicly. It's a pretty disturbing video.
Yeah,
but,
it is.
You know, I think it really does do a good job of painting a picture of just how much weight and power he had in the Hollywood realm.
Okay, I'm ready.
Oh,
All right. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Oh.
All right, let me know when to hit play.
Okay, it's ready.
All right.
Another day on the set of Sam and Cat.
Hold on. It's like my volume is being weird for that. Sorry. All right, go ahead.
I love my job. I'm so glad I ordered a salad. Chicken? Where's the rest of the chicken? I only ordered it for the chicken. Hey, Dan Schneider. I know you're watching my Vine. Do you like my Vine? Vine. Vine. Look what you've done to me. My manicure's the worst. Which way do I turn? Is that guy cute? I hate potholes. I hate driving. Can I reach those chips? Working on a sitcom! Bruise. 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 Maybe it's just because I'm anemic. Yeah!
It was the cringe Vine era.
Do you think I make too many vines? Oh, well, here's another. Girl's face on a date. Uh-huh. Oh. Girl's face in real life. When a girl says, "No, I'm fine," she means, "I hate you!" Why hasn't he texted me back? Maybe he didn't get it. OMG, he's typing. What's he gonna say? Just a
Yeah, so I mean that's just kind of a few of the vines that kind of are very obvious cries for help from Jeanette McCurdy.
Yeah, especially a couple of those earlier ones. I don't know why my camera's doing that. So odd.
I think that a lot of the time it's like the child entertainment industry does put a lot of, I don't know, like they put a lot of psychological weight on these children and they don't really give it much thought or regard, you know? Because like getting famous like that, I think is like a pretty like, you know, it's like an experience for anyone, let alone a child, you know, like getting that sort of attention and like knowing how to deal with it. And I think that Jeanette is, you know, just a good example of that with like how far it took her eating disorder, for example. And I feel like she's probably not the, you know, she's like one of countless examples of like young Hollywood actresses like developing eating disorders.
Right.
Like she's just one of many, many, many examples. And, you know, it's very damaging. You know, it kills people. It leads,
Definitely.
and it should be taken, I guess, more seriously in that industry with some of these young girls. And I feel like the body positivity movement is helping, you know, to a certain degree. I feel like times are, you know, changing, but at the same time, like sometimes it, like at the same time where it feels like it's getting better, sometimes it's like, well, is it getting worse? You know?
Right.
Well, and you know, I think with celebrities, something that is said about them is whenever you become famous is the age that you mentally stay at. And I think for child stars to become famous, to become so exposed at such a young age, where, you know, you're learning about your insecurities and your flaws and things that you like and don't like about yourself, but also, you know, going through your physical changes, and to do that while on a hit TV show with millions of people watching, especially peers, who are in your age range and you're supposed to be a role model for them, it must be extremely daunting.
And, you know, also like a lot of the time they're like pulled out of school, right? Like they don't really,
Yeah, they like perform for, you know, X amount of hours a day, and they're like, here's your Red Bull and your coffee, get to work.
yeah.
Right. No real childhood. They're just like a lot of them do like satellite school, or like they have like tutors, so they don't even really get that real like socialization or whatever with kids their own age. So a lot of them are around grown adults, you know, by the time, you know, their entire lives. So by this time, a lot of them already feel very grown up in a lot of ways and have a hard time connecting with their peers. I think it is really hard on child, you know, entertainers, child stars.
Yeah, and someone who it's been really hard on, and who has kind of suffered from that, is Ariana Grande, who is another person who has worked with Dan Schneider. There's a specific video that shows Ariana Grande and Liz Gillies laying on the floor of the Victoria's set, when all of a sudden Schneider, who's filming, with a camcorder behind the scenes of this, kids show, walks up to them and starts asking them questions about what they're doing. His tone makes it seem like he's angry or like pissed off about something, but they hadn't done anything wrong. But while Schneider was filming them, Liz Gillies turns away from the camera and starts making a barking noise. And then causing Schneider to kind of question why she's making those noises, which she like denies making the noises, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." And then he kind of turns away, and then, just as he turns away, another barking noise. And then so all of a sudden there were a few male actors to approach while they were, all the three of them were together gathered around, and they started to distract Dan while Liz and Ariel have like hustled away. And we have that video here too. So we're going to give you guys that kind of to show you.
No, this video is really creepy.
That I just said.
Okay, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right.
That I just said. That happens to me a lot. So now, just for fun, I'm gonna say 3 sentences. Oh man, my uvula got stuck between that hamster's toes. What is that swingy thing in the back of your throat right here? Ah! I'm soaking wet! Have you ever tried to get your whole big toe in your mouth? Check this out. I'm thirsty.
It's a lot of disturbing imagery for like a child to be doing. Okay, this is the clip we were talking about.
Hey, Dan Schneider. I know you're watching my Vine. Do you like my Vine? Vine. 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 Look what you've done to me.
Okay, this is it.
That was amazing. That was one of the better things I've ever heard.
Hey!
Hi, what's going on here?
You didn't cut out that part.
Why are you sitting on the floor of the set?
Because we are.
Did you just bark?
No, I did not.
Do I look like a real pizza delivery girl?
I don't know. They won't deliver pizza to my house anymore because of my brother.
Professional photographer.
My brother got shot by a clown. My brother painted part of his body purple.
Well, why did your brother paint part of his body purple?
He had a job interview. He didn't get it. Oh. One time my brother went to a home for troubled girls.
Why?
To meet troubled girls.
What is this?
Don't worry, they're not real feet.
But why did your brother have a bag of fake feet in the trunk of his car?
I'm not gonna lie, my brother's pretty weird. I used to watch reruns of it with my brother when he was in the special hospital where they used to handcuff him to his bed. I love Christmas beef. Every year my brother steals a chuck roast and then rubs it.
Working on a sitcom. Bruce. 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 Maybe it's just because I'm anemic. Yeah.
Okay, that's the end of that video. But yeah, it's weird.
Very.
Definitely very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
But yeah.
I mean, okay, so I never watched that show like growing up. So whenever I saw the clips like years later, I was just like, whoa. And I couldn't believe, honestly, that was on like a children's show. Like I remember just like my jaw literally dropping. And I really like it made me think about like Ariana Grande. She's like been through a lot already, but it made me think more so about like her childhood and when, you know, those very formative years of your life. And I I'm just like, God, like Ariana has to be so fucked up. My God.
She has
Yeah,
had a
and I
lot of
mean,
trauma.
but
Yeah.
to go back to the video, there's a rumor that on the Victoria set actually that the barking noises were to be a signal, so that way whenever they would bark, that someone else on set, like the boys on the set, would come and distract Dan, and that way the kids could, leave and go do something else.
And
However,
this,
even after all of these allegations and interactions with Dan Schneider, Ariana is one of the few people who seem to still be in good standing with Dan. And just this past March, they had a Victorious cast reunion via Zoom hosted by Dan Schneider. And he also frequently posts pictures of her family and, like her brother Frankie Grande on his Instagram, and still kind of seems to be very close with the family.
right, and
It does seem weird that she has a relationship with Dan still. Like, I wonder why. Like I just wonder why she's like one of the. I guess I'm just like, I wonder what's like behind the scenes, like why she's still in good standing with him.
I know it's like the whole family is.
Right, like her whole family is. I don't know.
I feel like it's a lot to do with like maybe she feels like she owes him something. Like
I think that
it's
too,
hard to-
and
it's
probably
hard
her
to
family
say.
thinks that too. Like, oh yeah, Dan like got Ariana her star. Like he got her
And
recognized.
Not to mention, like the trauma that she's dealt with.
Yeah,
and
somebody was like, what kind of trauma? And I mean, even just like the shooting that happened at her concert, like let's not forget about like the victims and their families first, obviously. Like that was a really tragic event and I feel so badly for the families, but that had to have really messed her up as an entertainer as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm
seeing
sure
that.
she probably thought she was, because I mean,
Oh,
if
it
I
was
were
a bomb. Yeah,
performing,
excuse me. Sorry.
if I were performing and a bomb went off, I would think that it was, kind of meant for me.
Yeah.
And she said that she's like, I know she like feels responsible to some degree. Like she feels guilty about it. So I know that like weighs on her heavily.
And then also she dated Mac Miller, who we all know overdosed.
Yeah.
And he overdosed after they had separated. And she got a lot of the blame for his overdose. A lot of people acted like it was her fault.
See, and for me, I can't understand or relate to why someone would want to be associated with someone like Dan Snyder. But also, she is someone who has dated a man who makes jokes about raping babies. And, I'm referring to Pete Davidson, who she was engaged to. She was engaged to Pete Davidson whenever Mac Miller died. And, he has awfully distasteful stand-up routine about wanting to rape a baby. But in Ariana's defense, that joke was after they dated. But obviously she's dating someone who has... screws loose. I'm just going to say it. Pedophilic ideas, and she's become desensitized from years of exploitation and grooming from the entertainment industry that she subconsciously couldn't even recognize when men that she was dating were being self-hating and self-destructive.
Right.
That's kind of my view on her, is like she just doesn't have any idea of what, a red light or a green light is for a relationship or boundaries.
I agree with Holly
have just been too blurred.
I feel like she probably thinks to a certain degree she owes Dan something, and her family probably feels the same way.
And then also just it's like, I mean, it's a lot to kind of weigh on you for being like a whistleblower. It's hard for people to maintain or like continue to in this industry whenever they're known as like the girl who told, which is horrible, but it's the truth. And if anyone thinks that's changed, they're wrong. Like there's no way, just because a few bad apples are out of the situation, it's just over. There's no way.
Yeah, and I mean, long before Ariana Grande or Alexa Nichols or Jeanette McCurdy had issues with Dan Schneider, there was the Blueprint, Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes was the channel's defining star. I think that we could easily say that Amanda Bynes is the most famous Nickelodeon star to come out of that network.
Right.
She started working with Schneider at just 9 years old when she was spotted by the producer and by the producers of all that. And basically, she went from all that to the Amanda Show, which she headlined at 12 years old. Then to another show also produced by Dan Schneider, What I Like About You. So, basically all of her formative years from puberty to adulthood, literally she was around Dan Schneider. And then this picture here, if you could show that, Holly, it's a picture of Dan Schneider and Amanda Bynes, who is, very young at the time, in a hot tub.
There's a video of it somewhere too, but we couldn't find the video. We just have to show the picture, and just to describe it, it's like they're sitting. I don't know. I would say Dan's such a big guy and she's so little. I would say they're a foot apart. It's like they're both kind of in the corner of the tub. And then the other thing you just have to hate about Dan is he's wearing his full clothing in a hot tub.
And sunglasses.
And sunglasses, which I'm I guess that's good because he is next to Amanda, but it's why is he getting in the hot tub with her while she's filming? Why was he trying to get that close to her? It's weird.
Oh, it's very, very weird. Hold on, I'm trying to get a good picture pulled up because I don't want to just show. Oh, what the fuck? Okay. All right, there we go. That's good. Okay, so here is the picture.
And we're going to go through some of the tweets too.
So here they are. And she used to do this thing. It was a show, kind of. It was a little tiny thing that she would do at the end of all of her show called Amanda's Jacuzzi, is what I remember. And she would drink and talk. And normally it was just to the viewers, but every once in a while Dan Schneider would be in it.
Yeah, she would have different people in the jacuzzi, but it just didn't make sense, to go from having peers and kids her own age than to having this, morbidly obese, geek in her hot tub with her.
Yeah, it's get away from Amanda.
Sunglasses.
It's get away from Amanda. Holly, will you show some of the tweets in the document? I think it's fine if you just don't read our script, you guys.
Here, well, let me stop streaming then and then pull it back up.
If you CTRL and zoom in, it'll make them bigger too.
Right.
But yeah, it's just get away from Amanda Bynes. I don't know. Amanda Bynes is just such an interesting person to me. And she's somebody that we've actually talked about going into a bit further and doing a whole episode on, just with what's going on with her lately in general.
Yes.
So these are some of the tweets. Yeah, this one says, one man in particular took hundreds of photos of my feet. I was only 13, and one of the main reasons why I may never be able to get pregnant. What? One of the reasons why I may never be able to get pregnant. Do you know what that implicates? To me, that implicates that he got her pregnant and she had to have some sort of an abortion that made it so she could no longer get pregnant. And it's we can't know that for sure. What is she talking about, I guess? But I don't know. To me, that's very telling. And I think it's also something that she's deleted. In this account that she's tweeting from, it actually is speculated that it's Amanda Bynes' account because her real social media account, since she's in a conservatorship, she doesn't have control of. So people think that she uses this Persian LA27 account. And there are a lot of reasons why it's like substantiated. Like you'll see like current pictures of her, and it really does seem like her. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, it really does seem like her account. And I think it is actually privated and locked now, where you have to request access, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Luckily, I have access to that on my.
Oh,
'cause I
you do?
actually follow that. Yeah, I follow that on my older Twitter. So I've been able to have those tweets for years. And it really does seem like it's truly Amanda Bynes running this Twitter account. She'll post like pictures and videos that are like, you know, she's been very MIA the past 5 years, 6 years. So it's just like, how would someone get those photos?
She also said there are many sexual predators in Hollywood. Some of the rumors are true, some of the rumors are false. And then in another one, he called me ugly as a child and then asked me if I wanted to have sex with him, and I did not know how to respond, and I said no, and then I was forced to live with my dad, which was a total nightmare. Harvey Weinstein? Did you mean Dan Schneider? No. Oh, okay. My mother gave birth to a legend, and my mother knew that I would be very successful, and my mother had intentions of robbing me all along. I continue to be financially raped by both of my parents on a daily basis. My parents never cared, never. So these are some of her tweets recently. Well, these are somewhat recently. So around 2012, Amanda Bynes was acting very erratically on social media. She got multiple DUIs and went in and out of rehab. In 2014, she announced that she had been diagnosed with bipolar affective disorder and manic depression. She's 35 now, and she's under her parents' conservatorship. There is no free Amanda trend going like there is with Free Britney to help raise awareness about her conservatorship. Instead,
Kind of is, but not to the level.
Yeah, not to the level. Instead, people are just, you know, kind of continuing to support Dan Schneider's work without like really thinking about it. Like iCarly hit top 10 of Netflix recently. You know, it's not something like I feel like some people know about it, but I feel like not enough people really know about it. But yeah, I think that we can dive quite a bit into Amanda Bynes here. Like, first of all, I just want to say I remember like watching her as a child on like All That, and like as a young girl who wanted to be funny. That was like the first thing I remember wanting to be whenever I grew up. I wanted to be a comedian. And as a young girl who wanted to be funny, I just remember thinking Amanda Bynes was like the shit. And I know you look back at some of her stuff now and it's kind of like, oh, cringe. But I think for the time, she really was kind of like ahead of her time. You know, like the meh and like some of the other like prank call bits and stuff that she would do. She was a talented young actress, and there's really no denying that. But yeah, Amanda's behavior recently has been hard to watch, honestly. It's hard to see how much
Definitely.
like it's like it's hard to see like it's a train wreck. Like it's like she's just a train wreck right now is what it seems to me. It seems like she's suffering from like a lot of mental health issues, and it does seem to me like her parents don't really give a fuck. You know, like I think that she probably does dramatize it a little bit because I'm sure she hates her parents, but I really do get the idea that her parents like sincerely really don't give a fuck about her and are just using her for money. Like she's talked about how like she like doesn't get any money, and like her mom just like bought another house with her money, and she has had like drug abuse issues and things like that. And I agree that she does probably need some amount of like supervision. I just don't think that a conservatorship is really like the solution for her. I think that it just puts her in a place where she feels, you know, exploited like she's been her whole life. And I feel like it's just probably not helping her. But anyway, what do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. You know, for me, I remember my first kind of memories of Amanda Bynes being the same. You know, I wanted to be a comedian, and I looked so fondly up to her. And I remember, you know, I would go, Amanda, please, and you know, Maha, and you know, things like that as a young kid. And you know, I would watch her show obsessively because I thought she was just such an interesting person to be able to be so funny at that age. And, you know, go on, you know, not Saturday Night Live, she went on the Jay Leno show and was able to perform a joke in front of Jay for, you know, at 9 years old. And I think that's, you know, it just speaks for how mature she was. But I think, you know, no matter how mature you are, to be in this kind of Hollywood bubble, you would need someone who like can protect you still.
Right. I mean, especially, and it's like I don't think she ever really had anyone really looking out for her. And there is no like handbook on how to be like a parent of a child star. Like it would be hard to deal with, but you do see it time and time again where these kids, there's all of these red flags that they're being abused, both sexually and physically and emotionally. And their parents just kind of like sit back and deal with it.
Because
and
it's
I
like
think,
you have to, if you want to be in
Right.
that industry too. It's like Sean mentioned earlier, another thing they'll do, like, oh, if you don't deal with it, then okay, bye, we'll find another. Like, that's it. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did in Alexa Nichols' case. They literally fired her after the second season and then had someone come in and, you know, replace her.
Right.
But and you know, and we're kind of actually going to be talking about that here in our next section. In the summer of 2002.
I just wanted to say before we move on, I do think that Dan Schneider is to blame for a lot of Amanda's mental health issues. I do. Like, I feel like the industry and Dan himself, I feel like I don't know. I feel like it affected her.
Well, I mean, her indicating sexual abuse definitely would lead one to believe that it definitely has had an effect on her. And just kind of like to go more so off of the whole, what I was going to say, I feel like just like having the conservatorship in place probably makes her feel like she needs to rebel more, because this is somebody who's been controlled their entire life.
Yeah.
And now even as an adult, it still continues.
Yeah, and you know, for the point of the conservatorship, the reason Amanda most wants out of the conservatorship is because to have a conservatorship means, because you know, you can't just be a conservatorship and, you know, the person who is in charge is on salary at that point. So she is effectively paying her parents monthly to be in control of her money. And then she also has to pay to attend therapy, that she doesn't have a choice on what therapist she goes to. She doesn't have a choice on, you know, what treatment she receives, but that's all treatment she's paying for.
And then it's also like, you know, these are the doctors who are analyzing her and who are coming up with these assessments and saying if she is okay to be able to take care of herself, and she has no say in who these doctors are, which is just another big issue with this whole conservatorship thing. But, you know, going back on, sorry, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, so really kind of back to the point of, you know, how they would kind of get rid of child stars and kind of throw them out. You know, just like, you know, everything else, they got to replace it after a year or two. It was summer of 2002, and it's also important to point out the relationship that Dan Schneider had with Brian Peck. Brian Peck was a character actor who you've probably seen in a few things, actually. He's been known for his roles in Growing Pains, and then he was the only actor to appear in all 3 of the Evil Dead films. I know those have a huge cult following. But the actor in 2002 was working on The Amanda Show and also working as a dialogue coach behind the scenes. But that summer, Dan and Brian hosted actors to a camp that would span 2 weeks and help them completely recast the entire 7th season of All That, which, you know, the kids were growing stale, the ratings were down, so they completely wiped the board and started over with an entire new group. And it would also go on to help about 100 young actors between the ages of 13 and 22 launch their careers into the entertainment industry, such as Hilary Duff, you know, several others at these camps. but it is alleged that young actresses were encouraged to lounge by the pool until an agent picked them out to go in front of Dan and Brian Peck. And child actors and actresses would go through the audition process that allegedly consisted of them having to take off their shoes and socks and walk around barefoot, and to go on about how much they enjoy being barefoot, and to do other things involving their feet.
That's
like,
totally necessary
weird,
in an audition.
like opening a bottle with your feet, like it's just weird shit that you'll never do, like never will you do it with your feet. But it is also alleged that young actresses were kind of at the pool, like I said, and to hang out there until they're, and it's not only actors as well, because in 2004, Brian Peck was convicted of a lewd act against a child, an oral compilation of a person under 16 years old. Brian Peck served 16 months in prison after admitting 2 counts of abusing a Nickelodeon child actor.
Which that was never disclosed who it was, right?
No, their identity was not disclosed to protect them. Once he was out of prison after 16 months, he actually was able to return to acting. And the first role he chose to take after his time in prison for abusing a child was to take a role on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. And I know what you're thinking. Since Brian is a sex offender, how is he able to be allowed around children? But there are no laws in place to protect young child actors on sets. Because just like everyone else, they are working a job. So the laws just don't apply to them on set at all.
I feel like we gotta talk about how oh, sorry, were you finished?
Not yet, but
sorry.
not yet. But as we've seen in the past, sexual misconduct has been expertly hidden and manipulated by the Hollywood machine. Dan Schneider may or may not be an exception, but either way, the knowledge of his questionable behavior and the people that he was working closely to makes watching the shows geared towards 7 to 15-year-olds so much more disturbing to watch.
Yeah, I think first of all, like, it's like these people, like pedophiles, get themselves into those positions intentionally, right? Like, I'm not trying to say that everybody who works a job, geared towards children is a pedophile. Like, obviously there's, few and far between. But it's like they work themselves into those kind of industries to be around children, to be in a place where they can, groom and manipulate children, where they're seen as like, a person in a place of power, right? Like, it's also something that you just have to watch out for. There's so many examples of it. I mean, like, I think of, was it Larry Nassar, the doctor who was like molesting gymnasts, and he molested like that was so disturbing.
Yeah, and he molested Selena Biles and Ali Raisman, right? I believe is her name.
Multiple gymnasts,
those are just 2 big like Olympic, winning gymnasts.
They aren't as few and far between as you might think. They're everywhere. I hate them so much. No, you're right. It's just like, I think something that we really need to be aware of, right? And like, for example, like Sean just mentioned how this guy, Brian Peck, who was found guilty of a lewd act against a child, of oral copulation, which makes it sound like he made the child suck his, or, vice versa. He went to prison. He went to prison for it for 16 months and then is able to go and work with children again. Like, what the fuck? Honestly, like, what the fuck? I would think like 16 months for that, for making somebody below the age of 16 perform oral sex.
A month
16 months?
year
like,
for
what
how old
the
they were.
Fuck? How are these laws like so, like favored towards pedophiles? Kind of makes you wonder, right? Like, I don't know. It's
Well,
just like there's so many institutions built around protecting pedophiles and pedophilia.
I mean,
you
all
know?
of Hollywood. All
Yeah.
of Hollywood. I mean, the police, like everyone is.
The Catholic Church,
They're not looking.
you know, like certain people in the government and places of power that are able to write these laws. It's like, it's very disturbing.
Yeah, and like you know, not to like jump ahead or anything, but Brian Peck actually continued working in different children's shows and different like, you know, horror films.
As
starring
recent
an
as
awful
of, do you
cast.
know like how recently?
2019 is his most recent release.
What movie? Do you know?
It was some sort of like, you know, teen slasher like shit movie. Probably could get it at a Redbox.
Ugh,
But you know, so he was like the teacher in this horror movie. But you know, so he actually he had a lot of very powerful friends, and you know, basically you know, one of the articles I was reading is how is he able to get work, and they documented the fact that he owns a BMW, he owns a Rolls Royce, he lives in a like it was a $8 million home as a dialogue coach. But after his years kind of working with Dan Schneider, he went and worked with his friend Charlie Sheen, working on the show Anger Management, which we'll
Were they
talk more
actually
about.
like
Charlie
friends
Sheen. Kind of,
or?
yeah, they were close friends, and you know, everyone knows kind of a dialogue coach is like a joke job, especially for an actor like Charlie Sheen. I don't think you need to worry about him like not being able to nail a line. I think he has plenty of, you know, success with lines, but
definitely nailing them.
yes.
But yeah, I don't know, just the way that pedophiles are shielded, you know, I don't know. Like, I honestly, whenever I read that he got 16 months in prison for making a child under the age of 16 perform oral sex, what the fuck? And then he just returns to working with children again on set like it didn't even happen, like around another, you know, Zach and Cody. He went to film for Zach and Cody, two young boys, which sounds like, you know, it's his preference.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really have much on him, surprisingly, besides like news articles, but he's someone who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. But you know, you see him and you're like, oh, I've seen him in movies. I've seen him before. And you know, you could look at his filmography and you recognize his name in roles, and you're just like, wow.
You know,
I can't believe this.
It's also interesting to me, like how, like as far as like children networks go, like, you know, you have Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network are like the three big ones I think of at least, and how many like live action, you know, children kind of casts Nickelodeon had in comparison to Cartoon Network that was really just cartoons, and Disney Channel, which really didn't have like that many. I guess maybe around the same amount. Like I think like Liz, but I don't know. I feel like they haven't had near the controversy that Nickelodeon has, or have they? I don't know.
It's debatable. You know, because you know they had like Miley Cyrus, who obviously is, but you know, Miley Cyrus is a success story though.
I feel like Hilary Duff is too. Like
and so
Miley Cyrus and
exactly.
Hilary Duff, I think, have really turned out to be pretty great overall people.
Demi Lovato, what was she on?
She was on Disney.
Demi,
and
she's
like, you know,
somebody
Selena.
who, you know, has said that she was sexually abused in Hollywood, I believe.
But she wasn't just exclusively on Disney, right?
No, she actually got her start on like non-Disney shows, and then ended up
the
on
Mickey
Disney.
Mouse Club or something like that too? Or Barney?
No,
Barney.
no.
She was on Barney.
Yeah, she was on Barney at like 3 or 6 or something, and so it's like that was kind of where she started. So I think that was PBS, like local access almost type thing. But you know, so where there's smoke, there is fire, and some people did start to speak out against Dan Schneider. Including the hacktivist group Anonymous. They announced that they are going to war with Nickelodeon's Dan Schneider because they had reasons to believe that he had been sexually abusing children on his show. This declaration from Anonymous was all the way back from 2011. And, you know, like I said, that is kind of where I first heard about Dan Schneider being kind of a creep. And long before pedophiles lurking in Hollywood, it was even suspected by the public, which, you know, definitely over the past few years, it has become more known about, but, you know, there's still nothing in place to kind of stop it.
Mm-hmm. And like a lot of these people, like these whistleblowers, I feel like they're kind of treated like they're crazy.
Well, they're treated like they're crazy. They're treated like their careers will be over.
And it's just always kind of like it's people just don't want to believe it, you know. So
somebody said there have been jokes on 4chan about Dan Schneider for over a decade and nobody did a thing. Yeah, I will say whenever I started researching into this, it was crazy how many screenshots of 4chan, the message board, like were circulating about this back in the day. Like they were really on it. And it just makes me think of, I don't know, like 4chan has some like really bad sides to it, but there also there were some redeeming things that 4chan did at the time. And you know, maybe Minecraft Twitter could figure it out. Instead of just being toxic all the time, they could actually use their voices to, you know, spread awareness about something. The like
K-pop
Dan Schneider
stans did it. Mm-hmm. I mean, the K-pop stands to Donald Trump's Twitter. I don't see these kids doing shit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but let's go ahead.
Anyway, play that video from Anonymous. This is the video that Anonymous announced about their war with Nickelodeon's Dan Schneider, and they did this in 2011. Okay, I'm ready.
Are you ready, Sean? Okay.
Greetings, world. We are Anonymous.
Is that like really loud for you guys?
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. Okay. I used to love watching Anonymous videos.
For years we have seen what TV has been feeding us, but it is only until now that we have realized the sick acts that Nickelodeon has been performing through the years. All by the perverted and sick ideas of a man going by the name Dan Schneider. This man created shows like Zoe 101, where preteen girls were conveniently dressed as sluts, with miniskirts that no mother would ever let her daughter walk out on. They presented us a perverted and sick world, where it was okay for girls to engage in conducts that were everything but respectable and age-appropriate. Nickelodeon has been paying thousands of dollars to this man Dan Schneider to keep feeding us this perverted material, now with shows like iCarly and Victorious, where for one, we are led to believe that two girls exposing themselves on the internet is cool, again, dressing at least one member of the cast in skimpy clothes. And Victorious, half of the cast composed of girls always dressed provocatively, especially one Ariana Grande, who apparently has been either convinced or forced to always dress provocatively in and out of scene, convenient for pedophiles and sickos out there to feast their eyes upon. That is why today, a decision has been made. It is now time that perverted people, like Dan Schneider, are taught a lesson. Anonymous means change. Anonymous means doing what is right. And what is right is to stop the exploitation of these young girls by unscrupulous producers that kick them away after they made money out of them. That is why tonight, all the forces of Anonymous have been set on Operation Black Hawk, which will bring down all Nickelodeon-related sites as well as the official sites of Ariana Grande, Elizabeth Giles, Victoria Justice, and many others on August 27th. Dan Schneider will have to apologize to all these girls he has exploited, and the general public through a video in his log, for his perverted actions, and will promise that from this day on no more girls will ever be exploited by him and Nickelodeon. Comply with this request and further lessons will be avoided. Non-compliance will result in severe penalties. We suggest you comply. Remember, We're anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
You know,
Now let's cut
it's
that.
interesting. Even 10 years ago, that they were saying how provocative Ariana Grande was dressing, and saying that she is being exploited. Then even
Right.
I mean, they weren't wrong.
now I'm like, wow, they were really ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I mean, some of the wording they used is a little bit outdated.
Yeah.
But it was 2011.
Well,
give
and it
them,
is like
some
they are.
benefit of doubt.
It is also like, they are preteen girls, so it is like, why are they dressing in mini skirts and stuff like that? But
Right. No, I mean, I totally agree.
yeah. But yeah, the
right.
language is like, okay, calm down a little, anonymous.
It sounded a little toxic, but it's to be expected.
It's coming from the it's toxic love. It's Anonymous is love bomb. They're love bombing those girls, and they're gonna just cut that.
Oh, another one that Sean brought up. Yeah.
But yeah, and I know you guys mentioned 4chan, but something I found actually, talking kind of conspiracies and stuff was from BuzzFeed. Robert Downey Jr. actually worked with Dan Schneider early in his career, and he allegedly wrote the following statement on Crazy Days and Nights under the screen named, he's a monster, the worst predator alive. And if you wonder why nobody will confront or charge him, he's in charge of multiple hit shows for Nickelodeon, which rakes in oceans of money, tens of millions of dollars, multiplied by many years and many shows. Not to mention his merchandising royalties. So Viacom, Nickelodeon warned him to cool it, then pay his damn lawyers.
Do you think it was Robert Downey Jr.?
I personally don't believe it was. No, I don't believe it was. But I think, I wanted to include that in there because it is an interesting conspiracy.
Well, speaking of conspiracies, I guess we should also just mention the Jamie Lynn Spears conspiracy. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but it's worth mentioning because I've seen a lot of people bring it up, but it's also rumored that Dan Schneider fathered Jamie Lynn Spears' child around what years? Do you know, Sean?
It was 2008.
2008. And Sean is like, I don't believe it. And honestly, I don't really believe it either. But I think it just kind of goes to show like he was having inappropriate behavior for people. Like, I don't know. I think it just like adds on. Like maybe it wasn't that far, but maybe there was a certain level of inappropriateness that occurred on set to get people talking about it, Yeah,
I definitely think that's it's a rumor.
Are there any reasons why you specifically think it's a rumor?
Well, because I've followed the Spears family very closely for over a decade. Yeah, since this time. I remember using my cell phone and I was in band. I played percussion. And I remember when the news alert came across, Jamie Lynn Spears is pregnant and Zoe 101 is ending its 4-season run. I remember using my data because you didn't have data plans at the time. So I got on, on my phone, on my little flip phone, and I looked it up and I was just all over it. And the father of Jamie Lynn Spears' first daughter is Casey Aldridge, who is a meth head from Louisiana.
They have a type. Those girls have a type.
But, if you look at pictures, it's very obviously, like, as Maddie, who is Jamie Lynn's daughter, gets older, it's obviously his. And also, Dan Schneider would have given the baby fat genes.
True.
Like, I'm sorry, that's how I know, because Dan Schneider is fat as fuck.
It would have been a fat baby, right?
So,
I mean, there's so many conspiracies kind of just like around him in general. And there's always truth to something. Like if there's all of these conspiracies, like I think that clearly there's been a lot of indicators that something was wrong and something has been wrong. And we've seen so many of these people kind of speak out about it. And there's been all of these red flags that he's even put in his own shows for people to watch, for people to see, like, and view. So it really makes you question what he does do behind the scenes, which I think is why there are so many conspiracy theories around, him in general.
Right.
Jamie Lynn isn't the first person that was suspected to be impregnated either. It's the second Nickelodeon star to be.
Who's the first?
Amanda Bynes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
To have an abortion or to be made fun of so much for her weight that she no longer had menstrual cycles, which would hinder her from having a child as well. So those are kind of some of the medical things that have been listed. And it's it's heartbreaking because you can tell that Amanda Bynes wants a child because she's talked about it a lot and she's alluded to it a lot over the years. Like you can tell that she has a desire to be a mother, especially at 35. But yeah,
I'm sure it's definitely affected, like, her mental health, and is one of the reasons she suffers so much from depression and other things as well. I mean, to have that choice made for you,
yeah,
it's horrible. But, speaking of choices made for you, I mean, Dan Schneider just goes down the list. Like, it's disturbing. I guess, Sean, like, do you want to kind of touch back on where we were?
Yeah, of course the accusations against Dan Schneider and possible abuse of child stars on his shows is mostly speculation. However, they're not unfounded. And when you think about the personal lives of the child stars involved in Schneider's shows, and why so many of them have ended up with dysfunctional lives and troubled adults, and I did end up cutting this out, but Drake Bell is a man who worked directly under Schneider on multiple shows, and he actually has been accused of being a rapist, a alcoholic, abusive, a drug addict, among other things.
I wonder how closely he was also around like Brian Peck. Honestly, has it been rumored that he could have been the star that Brian Peck, because like we said, it was a Nickelodeon star. We mentioned that earlier.
I think
I don't know.
Probably, well, I would suggest if we really kind of wanted to figure it out, I think we could probably look and see what show Brian Peck was working on in 2003 or 4. Like I said, he was working on Amanda Bynes' show, The Amanda Show. However, that would have ended. Amanda was 15. She started What I Like About You in 2002. So it would have been Drake and Josh was on by 2004. So if Brian Peck ever worked for Drake and Josh as a dialogue coach or something like that, I would definitely look into his past.
I'm seeing all that 2000 to 2002. He did
Another
Holes.
Kind of notable. Yeah, I was gonna say Holes, and we know about Shia.
Yeah, with a whole group of Disney stars. So he literally, Brian Peck was almost
Sweet
like
Life of Zach and Cody. Yeah,
I don't see the gap.
So I don't see
not Drake and Josh.
So what about his other listings? Does he have anything
Boy Meets
under
World, interestingly.
Well, no, I'm talking about does he have any, because he was a dialogue coach, does he have anything listed under his other filmography, like credits?
I see.
Because they'll list it in
Okay, I see. Additional cast. Yeah, let's see. Holes acting coach.
Producer. And he was in X-Men. But yeah, and just for people who don't know how old Brian Peck is, he was born in 1960, so he'll be turning 61 this year. So he's much older.
Wow, he
So,
was
no.
recently in archive footage, My Truth, The Rape of Two Corys, a documentary that came out in 2020.
Yes, yeah, and that actually does go kind of into Charlie Sheen, because like I said, Brian Peck and Charlie Sheen are very, very close friends. And I would say looking at his filmography and then looking at his cars that he owns, it's weird that Brian Peck is able to support this lifestyle when he's been a character actor in a few things. And while they've been big, he's uncredited in much of the roles that I see he's done.
One of the weird ones I just want to like point out that he was in, and I don't know if he was like a lead in, like he played like a sex ed teacher
Yes, that was
in a movie called Queerentine, which was a short. But I'm like, that seems like, I don't know why he's like playing a sex ed teacher whenever he works with kids so much. It just seems very, very uncomfortable to me.
Yeah, and Freaks of Nature was the other show with that was the teen slasher I was talking about. Freaks of Nature, he plays the zombie dad. So it's all of the roles are essentially children's roles. Jack and the Beanstalk.
Clueless.
Clueless.
Oh, this show. Okay.
He was in Love Wrecked, which also had Amanda Bynes in it. So he was working very closely with Amanda Bynes for much of her time at Nickelodeon. But anyway, so back to Brian Peck and Charlie.
Yeah, we could go down that rabbit hole.
For him to be working with Charlie Sheen was allegedly sexually assaulting both Corys, especially Corey Haim, who ended up dying of a drug overdose.
Allegedly.
He raped Corey Haim. But yeah, so that was just kind of a little bit about him. So then, it goes into Robert Downey Jr. knowing all of these people through that circle.
Mm-hmm.
And it, kind of leads you to believe that the conspiracy of Robert Downey Jr. posting isn't that far off.
Yeah. So the next thing that we wanted to talk about a little bit.
Yeah. 1 second. I've just closed my thing. But one moment.
It's a convoluted story. It really is. It's like, wow. I understand why people get so caught up in Hollywood conspiracy now, just hearing that Charlie Sheen bit. And I'm like, it is like, the circles that they'll be in. Like, oh, well, they were with them and they were like, and then it's like the circle starts to get a little bit bigger and you start to see like the more people involved. It's weird.
There's and we didn't do a whole deep dive, but there's actually 6 people who are directly linked to Dan Schneider who have been incarcerated since let's just say since 2000. 6 people altogether who have been in the entertainment industry who have been incarcerated for sexual acts on children or for CP. Okay, so on October 15th, 2017, Harvey Weinstein was called out by the New York Times for his years of harassment and misconduct towards young actresses. Over the months, many powerful men continued to fall because of the predatory behavior that has taken place in Hollywood for far too long. This is known as the Weinstein effect. Just 2 days later, on October 17th, 2017, it was reported that Nickelodeon had suspended Chris Savino, another Nickelodeon producer, from their studio due to multiple allegations of sexual harassment against him. Rumors of Savino's inappropriate behavior had existed for at least a decade. As many as a dozen women accused Savino of sexual harassment, unwanted sexual advances, and threats of blacklisting. Female colleagues who no longer agreed to consensual relationships with him were often fired and blacklisted from Hollywood. And then on October 19th, a Nickelodeon spokesperson confirmed that they had terminated Savino's contract and that the Loud House, the show that he produced with Nickelodeon, would continue without him. It was time for Nickelodeon to clean house. Changes would come in late 2008 or in March of 2018 when Dan Schneider finally parted ways with Nickelodeon. A man whose entertainment career had spanned 4 decades, starting as a child actor, playing a creepy, lustful teen in Better Off Dead, to now ending with his career in his mid-50s, and he's still lusting after young girls. And he's still the creepy man.
It is interesting that Nickelodeon had, like, you know, how many... Okay, so it's like you have Chris Savino, you have the Peck guy, and then you have, like, all of Dan Schneider's weird shit. You know, it's like, just like we were saying, like, oh, well, these predators, like, they can just find, like, you know, another child star. There's, like, child stars lining up who are willing to take the abuse. It's kind of like, okay, like, they can find more child stars, but why can't the networks find more writers or more producers? Because there's so many talented people who aren't pedophiles that would, you know, that would want, like, it's like, why can't they just find people who aren't pedophiles?
Yeah, and I think because
Like-
Chris Savino had worked for the Cartoon Network, ironically enough, I kind of think that maybe Cartoon Network didn't let that kind of stuff fly and terminated him. Because he had done shows like Dexter's Laboratory and the Powerpuff Girls. You know, he created the Powerpuff Girls, and I think that they, like, obviously he had a very lucrative deal with Cartoon Network. Those are, like, their staple shows, especially of the 90s. However, I think that they probably fired him because of the same reason. They would rather just lose the money and send him to Nick.
Right. Well, and also, like I mentioned with Cartoon Network, like, they also didn't have a bunch of, like, kids in their network. Like, they mostly did cartoons, right? Like, they didn't have, like, a bunch of live action children actors. Yeah.
Things that really surprises me, you know, like, right off the heels of Me Too and all of everything with, like, Weinstein coming out, that we didn't hear more about Chris Savino. Like, I never heard anything about him, and there were so many cases that were breaking at that time, and I guess it's just wild to me that somebody that was involved with so many shows with children, I heard nothing about, you know.
Because I mean, until now, like, you would have thought of the Powerpuff Girls as nothing of,
nothing,
you know, a tainted
has
legacy.
Yes, nothing has tainted their legacy, exactly.
Until Chris Savino and Dan Schneider, you know, and Brian Peck has tainted the legacy of these, you know, hit programs, and, you know, kind of ruined, for me at least, I think it kind of ruins a lot of the meaning behind the shows. Like, I loved Dexter's Laboratory growing up, and, you know, I loved the Amanda Show, like I said, and Kenan and Kel, you know, which is another Dan Schneider show. I can't really look at those shows the same.
Do you know, like, more about Savino? Like, what shows did he work on with Nick, and, like, what were the allegations that he was found guilty of? Do you know?
I know of one of them was basically there was an illustrator who he continued to press for sexual advances. And anytime that, like, basically she would even show up at one of the places he was working, whether it be Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, because there was some time between both incidents, he would constantly harass and stalk her, and basically kind of like, no, I saw that you were at the Nickelodeon lot today and you didn't come suck my dick. Things like that. So, you know, very demanding and, you know, very, you know,
creepy.
narcissistic type, well, I saw that you were, you know, working. Why didn't you come to me? When, you know, there was no interest on the other party's side.
Yeah, so he's basically worked on every, like, iconic cartoon that we grew up with. Hey Arnold, Rocco's Modern Life.
Oh my
Cow-
God,
Cow
ruined.
Chicken,
Wow, it's ruining so many.
Dexter's Laboratory.
Johnny
The Little
Bravo.
House. Yeah, the
Ed,
Loud
Ed, and
House
Eddie?
was actually, yeah. So and I didn't know what
Okay.
the Loud House was.
Not Johnny
but
Bravo or Ed, Ed, and Eddie, just to confirm.
SpongeBob. He did
Oh.
an episode. My Life as a Teenage Robot. I mean, these are just some notable ones. He's done a lot more. I'm kind of scrolling
Wow.
through. Wow. Wild. But it looks like mostly animated.
He wasn't accused, yeah, and just to be clear, Chris Savino was not accused of sexually assaulting children. I know that it doesn't make it any less wrong or any more...
Just like overall
It's a
sexual
little less
harassment
disgusting.
and being a creep.
It's less weird to think that maybe like there was a woman who was just like, all right, I'll do it.
Oh,
like,
Rocco's Modern Life. God.
Hit. But yeah, so, and I think, in my opinion, whenever the Harvey Weinstein article came out with New York Times, it was also in the time of the Nexium sex cult article coming out too. But I think that it kind of turned up the heat on a lot of these networks. And, you know, Nickelodeon is not the only one to have this reckoning where they have to clean out all of their shitty producers. Because I could go on, you know, about every channel who fired a string of people, of powerful,
It's prevalent.
white men. Yeah, it's like prevalent with powerful white men in Hollywood being creeps and pedophiles and rapists. But yeah, I think that they really, because, you know, whenever you think, so Nickelodeon and Dan Schneider were talking for years about parting, yet they continue to create hit shows with him and still have a hit show going, which in most cases, if you have a hit show going and you're leaving a network, they'll still have you keep working on that show until it's over.
Right.
If they can. Like, especially if it's the #1 show.
Right.
And also for the Loud House, that was actually the #1 cartoon series.
Oh, really?
So it doesn't, yeah, it was the #1 cartoon series on Nickelodeon at the time as well. So it's not like they were happy to let these people leave. But yeah.
So
So in the 3 years since Nickelodeon has parted ways with Schneider and his $7 million payday, Schneider has continued to live his life, keeping a fairly low profile. He is on Instagram, and for the first time in his life, he has appeared to kind of change his appearance. Because, like I said, he started his career as a child actor. He always had the same kind of look. He was no hair on his face, you know, kind of a short haircut, and he was, you know, morbidly obese. And since then, he has lost a significant amount of weight, with Google saying that he weighs only 220 pounds at 5'11", which is actually like an averaged weight for a man of his height.
Oh, wow. I was showing that picture, and I'm like...
Yeah, and he's also grown his beard. Casey, will you put that picture up on the, like the share screen? Or if
I was just showing it on my stream, just like through the window, but I'm like, wow, Ariana's in this picture. When was this picture taken? Do you know?
I think that was last year before the shutdown, actually.
It has to be very recent.
Yeah, it's one of the more recent photos on his page. And like I said, just this year they did the Victorious cast reunion. Within the past like 5 weeks, they've done this. So it's very recent, recently. And I mean, Liz Gills, you know, obviously has continued to be a successful actress, starring in the hit CW series.
Dynasty plug. Yep.
Yeah, Dynasty, you know, which is on the CW. And, you know, so she's continued a very successful career. And
right.
Yeah, this is Dan now. It looks like he's really trying to change his appearance. He has grown a beard. He's changed his signature glasses after years of having the exact same glasses and haircut. It changed, and I mean, he is skinny as a needle. But I think that it wasn't a change of lifestyle that he was looking for. I think it was a change of identity he was trying to look for.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely. I mean, it's definitely interesting, I guess, just to kind of see them with Dan still and Liz as well. I don't know if it's just like Liz is just kind of like she's friends with Ariana, so she's just kind of accepted that he's going to be around, or if he never really caused her any issues. I'm curious to know more about
Right?
what she
Like, I'm
has
like,
to
why
say.
is Ariana even around this nerd? Like, it's like, get away from her, Dan. Leave her alone. It's like she's a, A-list celebrity. Why is she around this Nickelodeon pervert pedophile producer?
Exactly.
X.
It's like she could be around like much bigger producers now.
Yeah.
And but shit, hold on. I actually was gonna say something about the picture, but now I can't think of it. It's fine. Oh, it was about Frankie Grande. So like I said, Dan did have successful shows still going, like the show Henry Danger, which was the network's #1 show. He actually had Frankie Grande on that series. So it was like he was casting her whole family.
Wait, that's Frankie Grande?
No.
Oh, okay. I was just like, he is just like, I was like, wow, I had no idea.
No.
I was like, he's taken on different forms. I'm like, wow.
He's a mutant. But but yeah, so in the years since, and it's interesting because, like I said, Dan is still posting on Instagram. However, the people he picks and chooses to post messages to are kind of interesting. Any of the stars of his previous shows, such as Miranda Cosgrove or Jamie Lynn Spears or Amanda Bynes, he's wished none of them a happy birthday. However, he's wished a lot of child stars who have kind of come up in that time and like were on these shows happy birthday on Instagram. And he'll like do like a dedicated post and stuff to people who have very few followers. So it does make me believe that he was not going after the Ariana Grandes of the group. I think that he's using her as kind of a ploy to get all of the other girls.
Like, yeah, and almost like a shield. Like, well, if Ariana Grande is okay with me, like, I must be okay. I'm an okay guy. I mean, it's definitely very, very concerning. And I think it's definitely, I mean, I think it would be very likely that he would go on to abuse children that didn't have such a footing in Hollywood, but not to say that he didn't either. I think these people will kind of see no boundaries, but I think this is around that time whenever these allegations starting, like, were coming out, so he did kind of have to.
I actually have a theory, and this is kind of just based on my experience with people who have been pedophiles. They will find one person to kind of have as their spokesperson, someone who everyone likes, someone who is the class clown, someone who's the popular kid. That way they can have them as their figurehead, while the people who have broken families and they have, the mom and dad that they're supporting with this gig or whatever, he's assaulting those victims. So he's not, assaulting the Ariana Grandes and the Jamie Lynn Spears of the network. He's, assaulting the Jeanette McCurdys who have an alcoholic mom.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically since then he's kind of tried to change his identity, like I had said. And for so many, life has gone on, but for the young stars involved, they've had a variety of trials and tribulations, just like I had mentioned Amanda Bynes, and we had talked so much about her, but Jeanette McCurdy and Drake Bell, who on the other side of the coin has been repeating those abusive patterns that maybe he learned from this
Being
person.
there, yeah.
Yeah. So with the sequel series of iCarly coming in just a few weeks, two faces most noticeably absent are Jeanette McCurdy, who has since retired from acting, and she has credited this time period of her acting career as why she no longer wants to be an actress. And after the years of psychological torture that Dan Schneider put upon her, he actually also will not be a part of the iCarly reboot, which is much anticipated to be premiering on the Paramount Network next month. He actually sold his intellectual property to iCarly in much of his TV shows, so he wouldn't be able to be attached to the new installment even if he wanted to be. So it kind of leaves the question, will justice ever be served, or will Dan Schneider's bakery be cooking up a new series in no time?
I feel like, honestly, at this point, it's just something that's, I don't know. Like, honestly, I'm not going to lie. I feel like he has kind of gotten away with it. I don't know. I feel like if there's no one coming forward and, like, trying to, like, press charges, which it seems like a lot of people are either afraid to, or they might even be under, like, non-disclosure agreements. Honestly, like, I'm kind of like, maybe whenever those start to break, there will be more people come forward, which has been speculated. I've seen like a lot of people mention like, in 8 to 10 years, people will be able to speak on it, and they'll probably speak on it more, and like as these actors like get older, it is kind of something that I feel like it just like you get to a point in your life where you're like, okay, I'm ready to speak on it. And I feel like a lot of the time it probably does happen more so like in your late 20s, early 30s. It's just like not something that you want to deal with, and like I don't know. It's not something that you're mentally ready to deal with. Yeah.
More to question, and this is just a conspiracy, about Amanda Bynes' conservatorship, because legally she wouldn't really be able to make a case against Dan Schneider if she wanted to,
Oh yeah, you have a point.
Conservatorship over her.
And I mean, it would just look so bad on her anyway. Like, she already has that going against her. And then, like, multiple other things. It's like, I don't know. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. I was just going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, how it's like, oh, Brian Peck, since then has worked on all of these, straight to red box films or whatever they are that, like, consist of having teenagers and children. I wouldn't be surprised if like Dan Schneider, like, put together some sort of film just so he could like be around children again. It's like, has Dan Schneider ever been like married or been in a relationship?
He actually has had a wife for the bulk of this time period, but their relationship
is
not
distant.
Very much known about it. Yeah, it seems very.
Is it like a cover-up wife almost? Like,
it's very transactional.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
So she's, transactional meaning. What do you think?
I mean, it just it pays to, it pays to be married to him.
Well, and then also for him, it's such a good cover up because it's like, I have a wife. Why would I do that? I have a wife.
Or is she in denial? What do you guys think?
It will depend on what is actually true. Like, honestly, I think for me, it would boil down to the feet fetish. I know
that would like, still be, that would just
I would say if he had a foot fetish, I think for me, I know that this is maybe like so far-fetched, but I would think that kind of confirmed everything else.
Well, he was doing this with like children, and it's like, it's not like he was.
But won't you be wondering, like, because obviously your feet will come up at some point if you're married to someone. And it's just like, what is his relationship with them? I know that sounds so stupid to say, but wouldn't you kind of watch for it?
I mean, I think that we should definitely be on the watch for Dan Schneider always and forever. He is somebody nobody should ever keep their eyes off of.
Yeah, there's definitely something wrong in the buttermilk, in my opinion.
You know, and it leads many of us to question more about the mysterious life of Dan Schneider and what else he has to hide. What other cover-ups and controversies are around him that we don't know?
I do think more could come out soon, and I'll be waiting to hear it, honestly.
This episode was written by Kanye West, 69, at Twitch TV, and edited by Kaceytron. We are all members of the For Recreational Use podcast. My name is Polly Cannabis.
I'm Kanye West, 69.
And I'm Kaceytron, and this is For Recreational Use.
Only. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and let us know what you guys thought of us today in the comments section below. Today we're going to go ahead and go into our Q&A, so if you guys have any questions for Sean or any of us more about this case, now is your time. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think. It did take a lot of time.
I turned on my alerts, and the first thing, like right after you said that, Holly, was, okay, Holly, all I fucking said. Sorry.
Oh, gosh.
And Magdalene
That's
gifted
funny.
a subscription.
I hope you guys enjoyed the episode.